Welcome to another episode of the show. I'm glad you're here. I remain your host, Boduri Adebo. Now, for the past 16 years, Nigeria has faced a problem that won't go away: insecurity. From Borno to Zamfara, Benue to Sokoto, Katsina to Niger, criminal activities, terrorism, banditry, kidnappings appear to have become a daily occurrence. More than 50,000 people have been killed over the last 1.5 decades, and countless have been injured, as well as communities displaced. The cries of helplessness from communities have become louder and more urgent. Nigerians wonder if the army and other security agencies have the capacity and the will to tame this evil tide. The pressure is palpable as the people cry for urgent help. So we ask, can Nigeria overcome its current security challenges? Is the military simply overwhelmed and out of depth to overcome these existential threats the country faces? How can oversight institutions, including the National Assembly, be more assertive in promoting accountability of Nigeria's military institutions, as well as the huge resources voted to it to fight insecurity year in, year out? On the show with me today is a security and safety analyst, retired Group Captain Sadiq Garba, shehu. He has served in various capacities with the Nigerian military, including serving as spokesperson of the Nigerian Air Force and having served as a defense attaché at different missions of Nigeria and UN agencies. Join me after this short break as I introduce my guest in the studio. For joining us today on this show. So I would like us to start from the home front. And the first question I would like to ask you is whether the spike that we see in banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria in recent times, do you think that is a function of our military being incapable of dealing with the situation? Because we've been dealing with this for the past, for almost 2 decades now. Your thoughts on this, please.
Thank you very much. It is a fact that now getting to 15 or 16 years, we've been battling with this Boko Haram insurgency, which was our problem initially. But then later on again, I can say between the transition between late Adwa and Buhari's administration, we started having other problems again, like banditry and kidnapping in the northwest and north central. So this, increased the workload of our military. Now, it will not be fair historically to say that the Nigerian military is not capable. However, the capacity of any military, whether Nigerian or Italy, is a function of so many things. The first that comes to mind for even the most, the dilettante in security matters is numbers. The numbers of people you have, the numbers of personnel you have. Certainly, Nigeria is operating, as a country in war with few numbers of military personnel, which, as the last count was put as 230,000. This if you include Army, Navy, and Air Force. Even in the police aspect, which in some aspects of the, counterterrorism, they should be able to assist the military. There again, we're having low numbers. So numbers are not enough. There are many, when you say, some people, some commentators on security used to say, why are you talking of numbers? Whereas how many are the Boko Haram? But honest, this question, with due respect, ignores the characteristic of counter-insurgency. An insurgent does not need numbers the way a professional, traditional military needs numbers. Many didactic writers have made researches to see that counter-insurgency operation, in fact, needs more men than what you need in a conventional army, professional army to professional army warfare. There is this, expert called Quinlevan. I think he's a British man. He has done studies of over 40 counterinsurgencies in the world. And what he finds, to buttress this issue of numbers is that in any country where there's a counterinsurgency and the government is not able to have a minimum of 25 to 30 counterinsurgent forces protecting 1,000 local community, you are going to have a problem. When I did a rough calculation of the number of 230, they are not even enough to protect the population that is in the Borno state, Adamawa, and Yobe states, which are the states that are most affected. Now, when you have a military that is bedeviled with these low numbers, certainly the insurgent may not win eventually, but it's going to be a ding-dong affair, and that is what we are having. We move from actual numbers, which I have given the basis where we need that. Now, saying that, you see that even if you pour in 230,000 personnel, they will not be able, to provide security for the people in the Northeast alone. And what is security? You only agree that you are winning in a counterinsurgency where people are not fleeing from their villages, where people are not fleeing from their farms. As long as people are fleeing from their villages and living their livelihoods, definitely the government forces have not won. That is one aspect. The second aspect is equipment.
Yeah.
The military,
but Sadiq, before you leave that point about numbers, I know our policymakers, particularly our politicians, they always talk about numbers. Even the current president, when he was campaigning for office, he said he was going to create, I think they called it something, Bola Ahmed Tinubu battalion or so. That was a campaign promise. So why is it that on the one hand, we hear about more recruitment into the police, into the army, and at the same time, I mean, with due respect to your very vast knowledge in this, on matters of security and intelligence, why are we not looking into things more than numbers? Because what I keep hearing is buy more equipment and recruit more people into the army.
Definitely, that question is a very valid question, because if we don't forget, since this insurgency started from 2009 2010, actually not only this government, the issue of low numbers is known to even the most basic of Nigerians, not that we do not have enough numbers. But you will wonder, from the time of late Adwa to the time of Jonathan, and then Buhari, and even now, we have not done, a very pragmatic recruitment that will fill in these numbers. And we have history to be our teacher here. When we had the Nigerian Civil War, at the beginning, I think the Nigerian military in total was less than 2,500. But because of the emergency that emerged as of the Civil War, within 2 years, the size of the Nigerian military quadrupled. And again, we even have to be more recent. Russia and Ukraine are fighting now. And you can see the way that they are doing recruitment to show that the country is at war. The truth is that for this past 15 years, we have not done the recruitment that shows that Nigeria is at war. And it is a normal, logical thing to do for any country that is at war. It beefs up recruitment. You may fear that the economy may not carry the recruitment, but you have a war at hand. What normally happens is that you recruit to get the numbers. Then after the conflict is over, you decommission people. You send them out, you give them a livelihood, and that is what we have not been doing. Since this insurgency started, the truth is that there has not been any credible recruitment. The numbers I gave you shows you, if you take the calculation of Quinlevan's theory, we need not less than 300,000 in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. Why is it so? Some people will talk of technology, use technology, but I'll give you as an example. If Kukawa is a town in Borno State, let's say for sake of example, it has 200,000 people, inhabitants there. If you have 100 Boko Haram, 25 coming from north, 25 coming from east and west and south, and firing sporadically, do you know they can empty that town of 200,000 people? They can send the people fleeing. Now, if on the other hand, I am the government forces, if I'm going to tell the people of Kukawa, stop running away, we're here to protect you, am I going with the equal number of Boko Haram? That is the 100 that came. Am I going with 200? Am I going with 300? Definitely, I'm going with something like 20 times that number, because it is only that number that will tell the villager in Kukawa that, okay, I can stake and take my chances. The military or the police are near me. As long as you don't have that, people will flee. You will have IDPs, you will have refugees, and definitely as long as you have this, you have not won. It is the insurgent that is in control. That is the issue of numbers as far as counterinsurgency is concerned. You may have equipment, is part of it. You may have technology, that is it, but technology cannot hold ground. What makes the insurgent to win is making people to run, to make people to fear. As long as that is happening, and the only medicine to make people not to run, not to flee, is boots on the ground. So we must have that. Then in addition, you can talk of equipment, you can talk of technology, which will give you early warning, which will show you the precise position of where the people are. But as long as you don't have these numbers, and this is what is happening. Take any town in Borno, Adamawa of Yobe. Our troops have fought over that particular town or village about 4 or 5 times. Why is it so? They capture Boko Haram sees it today, Monday. To Wednesday, our forces go, they send them away. Then another problem comes because we don't have enough forces. The forces in that particular area are taken to another area, and then Boko Haram will sneak in and come back to that area. So in the long run, it's not even cost effective when you have these few troops. You end up fighting, is Marti now. How many times have we fought over Marti? I think not less than 5 times. So in the long run, you are wasting men and resources over one particular terrain because you don't have numbers. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that when you go to the northeast and you discuss with the soldiers, you will find a soldier who has stayed in the front line for 4 years, 4 years unbroken, without leave, without this thing. Despite the fact that a soldier is supposed to be a rugged and resilient person, he is also a human being. By the time a soldier stays 4 years without seeing his family, without good, you cannot make the best use of him. That is the reality of it. That is why in advanced armed forces like Americans, you don't do a tour or duty beyond 12 months. After 12 months, you must go back home. Somebody will replace you. But since you don't have numbers...
So you mean there are people who have been on the front lines for 4 years?
There are.
So how do you manage the PTSD, the kind of, these are people exposed to issues of life and death on a daily basis. So how is that being managed in the military?
Well, there are some limited support that is given to people that have, and honestly, it has started manifesting. There are occasions where a soldier will go back because of the psychological distance. There are soldiers beating their wives. There are even soldiers going berserk and shooting. And what is the issue of this? I want you to link this, Dr. Bodirin, to all this replacement that is not happening. That is why we're having, definitely, like you said, a soldier has families. There are issues of PTSD. There is even fatigue itself. The fact that they say soldier doesn't mean that it is not blood and flesh that is under the soldier. He is also a human being. It is a fact that there are soldiers that have served 4 years unbroken. No Salah break, no Christmas break, no Easter break, just fighting. And again, one other issue that affects them, you forget that these people, they are husbands. With due respect, there are cases where wives have abandoned their military husband because the man has spent 4 years without coming home. There are issues of, sexual promiscuity in the barracks. All these are issues that are attached to the numbers. So when we talk of numbers, people should not underplay numbers. It has psychological, it has operational, it has even family, consequences for the soldiers. 4 years.
Well, thank you for that. Now, but okay, the word on the street is that government has run out of ideas. When the new national security advisor came on board, there were some initial flashes, some initial promises, and I think that reflected in a downward trend in terms of the number of attacks, as well as there were some successes recorded, and there was also this state-of-the-art facility that was put in place in Abuja. But all of that seems to not to be working. Is that the impression that the situation has totally overwhelmed the government, and they are out of ideas? Because we've seen new flanks opening, and then places where we had recorded successes in the past, there's a relapse to violence in those places.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy you started with the issue that there have been some successes. Yes, it has been a dig-dong affair. Of course, we have some flashes of success and then we have reversals. So that means we need to have a long time of successes and success to bring this insurgency to an end. You also spoke about, I don't know how you put it, structures. Like probably you're talking of the NSA building technology. So again, this raises another fundamental question. Items that are inside the defense budget, what the money is being used for. It is like somebody, the sword is the instrument of battle. You have a sword, but instead of sharpening the blade, you are polishing the handle. That's what we are doing by all this. Most of the money is in defense and security spending in Nigeria. Go and find out it is in construction. It is in construction. So what am I saying? While the money may seem a lot, even that I have a debate on that whether we are spending, because we know how countries spend when they are at war as a percentage of their GDP.
So but when you say construction, what kind of construction are they?
Constructions of universities, for example, military universities. As an educated person, of course, I will not say university is useful, but for a country at war, for a military at war, I do not think building a military university should be a priority. Building of messes, building of while we have numbers that, and for example, when you talk of a battalion, you are talking about 800 officers and men. Already we have battalions that, to be honest with you, they are not up to 400. So when you have such a battalion that is not beefed up in terms of number of personnel and equipment, and then you are creating another battalion, is that not, are you not deceiving yourself? You are deceiving yourself. So that is the problem. And the builders, like I said, you can check, get a copy of the budget and see where the money is. So the problem is that I think there is even problem of lack of effective oversight. Both in
I was actually coming to that. We see other societies where I'm sorry to break in. I just wanted to provide more context to what you're saying. And this is not just about the military. It's actually a failure of oversight institutions, particularly the National Assembly. Sometimes when I see members of the National Assembly, senators more than the members of the House, when they come to the media and they are talking about issues of defense, the question that comes to my mind is, what is your responsibility as the lawmaker? How are you oversighting these agencies? Because I've not seen an hearing, public hearing, or whatever name you want to give it, that is investigative in nature. All we'll see is that, the National Assembly has invited the Chief of Defense and the rest of them, and then they go into closed door.
And they have gone on closed door.
Exactly. So oversight is weak, as you said, and I think it's an area where we need to record it.
Very, very true. And I can trace the weakness of oversight. For example, I think I could say there is also the element of our history as a country that has no military regime. With due respect, I have worked with some legislators, some relevant committees, sometimes as a consultant, or sometimes even pro bono, because I don't think I've even received any money from them, pro bono. To be honest with you, like you said, when you hear somebody in the Army Committee or Air Force Committee or Navy Committee talking about security, you see crass ignorance. Now, it is democracy. Even if you are a tailor, your constituency could select you to represent a National Assembly, and you could end up heading the Army Committee, for example, if as the case may be. It doesn't mean that you must have military service. But again, to beef up this kind of lack of knowledge, you expect the legislatures to have consultants or to have legislative aides that know this issue. For example, I just finished talking about numbers. The last time that Marte is a battalion that was attacked there, and we lost some officers and men. At the debate in the Senate, I didn't hear anybody asking, okay, Marte is a battalion. It's supposed to be 800 officers and men. As of somebody who has served in the military for 29 years, for good or bad, the military or any security agency, when a security agency, it could be the police, it could be the military, it could be the intelligence services like DSS. By nature, I think it is an institutional culture. They don't like talking about their problems. They like keeping their problems to anybody who is external to that dissect. And the reason for not bringing it out, it has nothing to do with sometimes with even national security. It's just feeling that these people are civilians, they shouldn't know. So for somebody who is doing oversight, who has not served in the military, you have a very tough effort to know what Nigerian military is up to, what it has, what it doesn't have 100%. With due respect, again, you can hardly find a service chief that will sit down and tell you 100% what is there. So for you to be an effective oversight, you have two issues. Either you have served in the military, which is not always available, or you have legislative aides or consultants that when the army brings budget and say we want to buy APC with this model, this person will be able to tell you, is it really what the military needs? When they say there's a battalion in Marte, as a legislator, when I go, how many people am I supposed to? Throughout the debate on Marte that was attacked after this, I didn't hear anybody asking of these numbers. When Marte was attacked, I know there are supposed to be 800 officers and men. How many were on the ground? If you ask such questions, you will start getting to the root of the problem. Again, I am told that a battalion is supposed to have so number of APC. It is supposed to have so number of mortar. The soldier in the front line is supposed to have so number of bullets. All these things are within the military, strategy of how it is. But if a legislator doesn't know, he is not going to ask the question. And with due respect, the military may not volunteer information that you do not know. Now, but we have a battalion that's under strength because I can swear, even the number was saying that.
Yes, Sadiq, thanks for that point. I want us to zoom in more on issue of legislators. Now, from your experience interacting with these legislators, do they even have on their staff people with the requisite military background who can advise them on policy matters? Staff who are, manning these different committees that dealing with, they understand the dynamics within the defense sector. Do they have anything like that, either as personal staff in the offices or in the committees?
Well, it depends. Some attempted. With due respect, without trying to raise one above the other, I know, for example, during when Saraki was president of Senate, he had a retired general who was his advisor on security. But in the current house, and even the last one behind it, honestly, I'm not sure of any of this senior staff at the National Assembly that has somebody in their staff who knows about it. And it is obvious when you hear the debates about this. Now, we just finished talking about low numbers, but at the Senate hearing on this, but I already finished telling you that was in the Northwest, in Zakebi and Katsina, where bandits are running haywire. Is it those troops that you are going to carry? You do not have enough. But you see, the discussion has not even reached there. They just close and say the Senate has passed a resolution that the military, and of course, what will the soldiers say? They will say, yes, sir, we'll do it. But I am telling you that even the chief of army staff knows he does not have any extra troops that he's going to take. But he has answered them. And to them, the debate is closed until we have another attack. So you see what the problem is.
It's very, very structural.
It's a very big problem. The soldier, whatever you tell the soldier will say, yes, sir. But I am telling you, and I bet without bringing the service to this in, the services know that there is not any extra tools that they carry there. And if you carry, there will be consequences. Because why you are going to get extra tools maybe is in Zamfara, Kaduna, or Katsina, or Niger. Then what, do you have any arrangement with the bandits there that they will not attack until you come back from the northeast? You do not have that. But you see, an enlightened legislature would have asked. If I ought to know, I have never had one legislator saying, okay, with all the problems we have, when US was going to Afghanistan, the first question they asked the service chiefs, how many number of troops do you need? It is there.
Exactly.
It is in the it's an open knowledge. Since we started, I have never had somebody, okay, since this something is not ending, is it a number of troops? How many do we need? And they will tell you heart to heart. But what I find is that for the military man, he understands that those people in the legislature, they know zero about legislature. I will give you another example that will shock you. I was that was the 8th Senate. I was doing some training with them, organized by Konrad Adenauer Foundation, the German. I met somebody, I will not mention the name, who was in the House Committee on the Army. So when we are talking about how they are doing oversight, I just kind of playfully said, Honorable, you are the people who, how do you arrive at the personnel cost of the Nigerian Army? He said, they bring it and we sign it. I say, do you have the number of officers and men that in the Army currently? He was very frank. He told me that he doesn't know. Now, if you don't know, and you are the one that is oversighting personnel cost, definitely you see a big problem there. So this is the issue. Again, I've had in the last assembly, there was a legislator who is the chairman committee on security. With due respect, I watched it live on TV when the budget of the, I think, NSF office, which is under their oversight, was brought. And before anybody could talk, the chairman stood up and said, look, from what does it say? From history, the budget of security is not supposed to be examined. So I'm assuring the NSA that we are not even going to read the document they gave us. We have approved everything. He said this live on TV. With due respect, I know if you are a student of democratic control of the armed forces, the legislature, including the executive branch, you have a right to follow every kobo. You have right for when the army or the air force or the navy says we want this equipment, you have the right, and you should have resources, either human or material, to find somebody. Dr. Bodirin is an expert on military equipment. Please come and tell us. Our army chief said he wants this equipment. Is this necessary? Because equipments differ. There's a anti-personnel. There's an APC that will work in a hot region. There's one that will work in a cold region. So unless our legislators either have that knowledge on their own, or have staff like you said, or even have maybe I'm being over ambitious. But you see, we do comparative studies with other democracies. You have been to the United States. When you talk of the Congressional Research Service, to be honest with you, even as a consultant here in Nigeria, I benefit immensely from some of the documents on defense and security that are produced by Congressional Research Service, CRS. We are supposed to have, with due respect, we have an NLID here, a National Institute of Legislative and Defense and Democratic Studies. But I do not see them doing anything 1/5 or even 1/20. Or what is, if you have, like I said, by democracy, Bodirin, a tailor could be selected from his community and he will come to the assembly and be a chairman of the army. So we will be over ambitious if we say it must be a military man. It's not going to be. Every constituency can select. But where you come, you don't have military background, and you are put chairman, you are put in the committee of army or defense or navy or air force or even police or intelligence. I think with the resources you have, it will not be for lack of resources. You should be able to find one retired police officer or one retired DSS officer, either to be a full-time staff officer, because they have allowance for legislative aid. But what do they get? Some people put their sons. Some put the talk in their village that has helped them, snatch boxes. So you are not going, the legislative aid. I will give an example. There was a time they were doing one debate in the US Congress, and one senator took the service chiefs to the cleaners, with very intelligent questions. To be honest, with due respect, I don't even have to read, because I know I'm not going to get any intelligent question. I'm not going to get any question that is going to. But it's not the same in other democracies. When the service chiefs appear in Congress, you have to prepare, because the man not have served in the military, but he is served by high quality staff. And honestly, if you do not prepare, you as the military man with 35 years experience, if you do not prepare for that interview, he's going to ask a question that is going to topple your gyros. You are going to be real confused, because you are going to be hearing quality questions. You do not hear such quality questions from our listeners, because, like I said, and to be honest with you, for the military, despite every military man we used to say, and I want to assume everybody who joined the military is not a question of whether he's patriotic or not, but there's conflict of interest. Where I know the oversight master doesn't know, I used to say jokingly, I used to tell somebody that you don't even know from which end of the gun that bullets come out. So how are you going to be asking? As the service chief, to be honest with you, if I'm going to legislate in Nigeria, I don't even need to read. I don't need to read, because I know nobody is going to ask me.
No one asks any serious probing question.
Nothing. It's just Sadiq, the guiding.
I can relate to everything you've said. Back in the days, I was amongst the first set of Nigerians who worked to provide technical assistance to the National Assembly all the way back to 1999. And it's interesting you mentioned the National Institute for Legislative
and Democratic Studies.
That was not the original intent of that. when that support came through, it was a support that was to mirror the U.S. Congressional Research Service, which you have made reference to. And unfortunately, it got watered down at some point to just one small, library in the National Assembly. And then it now became this big institute that, so, but at the end of
that's what you are saying, with very shiny building. With due respect, they have just built a multi-billion naira building. What services are they giving to our legislators? From what I found out, with due respect, we must say we are all Nigerians. In fact, the headship of that place is like a welfare position for the House of Reps. I mean, the Speaker, House of Reps, and the Senate President. This one takes this one and appoints his man. The next one, this one takes. So it is honest. That NLID, when I see it, it makes me. Whenever I always think of the CRS in the US. And I'm happy you are telling me I didn't know that was the idea. But where can you?
I mean, the World Bank, where can we put and everybody were involved back then to give us something.
What have they produced? What have they? Simple as now. My area is security and defense. I expect at least NILDS to have a paper that says Nigerian Army is organized into divisions, brigades, battalions. And when we say a battalion, this is what we mean. This one we say a brigade is what we mean. So that when a legislator is doing oversight, he go to 213 brigade. He should know why is your nominal role, how many officers you have. This brigade is supposed to have such number of APCs. How many do you have? I expect at least ideas to produce such small documents. Is that not what CRS does? Small documents. I have benefited immensely.
There's a trove of information.
They went. Somebody used to joke. He says CRS. They have expertise in every subject A to Z, from abortion to zebra, any subject you want. There's a document in that CRS that you will get. Now, NIGS, they think our own is to go and build a very big building. They have built a very big building, but with due respect, in the area where I am, that is defense and security, the NLGS is almost zero as far as building the capacity or helping our legislators. And to be honest with you, what is happening is because of this lack of capacity of our legislators, coupled with the fact that sometimes, I was talking the other time I went, at a time, even the legislators believe that anything to do with defense and security is solely the issue of the president and commander-in-chief. It doesn't concern them. Whereas our constitution is very clear. I am not good at numbers. Maybe it's the section 218. Almost every power that the president has over security and defense matters, the legislators also have equal power. They may not appoint, they may not fire, but how the army is run, how it is financed, whether they need a new battalion or not, is all the concern of national legislators. But due respect, I'm happy you also shared the level of the low quality of debate. The low quality of debate, it's astronomical. It's astronomical, really.
Okay. Well, it's just the political economy of corruption that is also bedeviling efforts to confront insecurity in Nigeria. Now, the president recently announced that he was going to set up a forest guard or forestry guard.
Forest guard, yes.
Forest guard. Just to the point we just discussed. Often, the Nigerian solution to any problem is to throw money at it and create another structure. We have the Civil Defense Corps. We have the police. We have the army. We have all manner of formation. And, down at sub-national level, now we have the Amotekun, we have the Zamfara Vigilante Guard or Brigade. Everybody have one thing or the other. Are we not, driving ourselves into another arena of confusion with the establishment of this forest guard? Do you see this as a solution or adding more to the faulty foundation that we've been building
on? Thank you very much. In 2021 or 2022, the German Institute Konrad Adenauer Foundation again commissioned me to do some training for chairmen of committees, relevant committees in security and intelligence. The training happened in Lagos. I did 2 lectures there. The title of the training that the Germans gave me to do is duplication, overlap, and fragmentation within the security agencies. That already sets the tone for what you are saying. Because even as of that time, it wasn't realized that there's a lot of duplication, fragmentation, and overlap. These are the 3 terms. Each of these terms has its own meaning. This was the issue. That was the lecture. Of course, I don't want to go even to, I don't want to digress and say how many of the legislators actually stayed for the 3 days lecture. Some of them immediately after the photo shoot, they left. But that's another matter. Now, coming to the fact of this, I completely agree with you. This our discussion started, or I started with the issue of low numbers in the military, low numbers in the police. Now, if we already have an institution that is understaffed, why are you thinking of another new agency? It really doesn't make sense, but I hope it works. That is one point. The second point is that the forest guard, if I get Mr. President, is for them to occupy the places we are saying ungoverned spaces, where bandits like Turji and the rest of all those bad guys, they are there. Now, these are bad guys right now that our military is battling to stop them. They have not been able so far. Our police are battling to stop them. They are not able. In any organized society, the security agencies, in terms of firepower, they are graded. But I think at the highest grade is the military. Now, if you have a military that has not been able to deal with these bandits, with all the weaponry they have, now this forest guard that you are bringing, thinking they are the ones that will just I used to say jokingly, are you going to give them nuclear weapons? Are you going to equip them with nuclear weapons so that they can do what army is not able to do, what police is able to? If you have a good police is for law law enforcement. Even this bandit something is part of law enforcement. If you have a well-equipped, a well-resourced police, you don't even need military to go after these bandits. That is the truth. So you have a police that is that lacks capacity. Now you want to go and bring another agency instead of failing to meet the numbers, the UN numbers of police per 100 citizens. Instead of, I've told you of the Queen Levan story, to raise the number of our troops so that you have, when you have an counterinsurgency like we have in the Northeast, you have at least 25 soldiers guarding 1,000 population. You don't have that. Now you want to bring another entity. Now, as we are doing this debate about this, since the 8th assembly, or is it the 9th assembly, there's also the issue of another one, what did they call it? Peace Corps. Peace Corps. So legislators are still there pushing that Peace Corps should come in. So honest, with due respect, I'm a Nigerian, and I'll always continue to pray good for Nigeria. I hope this forest guard works, but I do not think that is the right thing to do. You should be able of beefing of your military, beefing of your police, beefing of your. In fact, unfortunately, the Oronsai committee did not touch security issues. But I think when you come to the security, Dr. Kabir Adamu, a consultant, used to say there are over, I don't know the number, whether he said 34 security agencies. What you even ask me about, I think some of the security agencies should be merged, not forming new ones. Yeah. Merged. It's not numbers. But again, I completely agree with you. I think this developing of forest guard and probably maybe Peace Corps is coming, because I know that bill has been there. The man has been pushing. I don't know what the man gave, what he gave to National Assembly. They have refused to do away with that Peace Corps. It is still there hanging. So, but we do not need more. Probably we even need some of them to match. If you take
maybe we're going to bring up the National Guard bill again. Remember what Babangida tried to do back then.
So it's it's just another duplication, multiplication, fragmentation, which is not what we need. In fact, even the conception of the idea, you see confusion there. Because what I had the president said, or the paper that came out, is that when there's the forest guard is going to be under NSA and Ministry of Environment. Already I see an organization with two masters. Already the clash is already, you are laying the foundation of that clash already before it even comes. I don't know whether they will change it. I think if at all they need to go, they better put that under one agency, not NSA and Minister of Environment. That's a recipe for disaster already.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sadiq. Let's go regional a bit. Within the time we have left for this conversation. Of course, we've seen developments in the Sahel region, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and to some extent to Libya. And now that is filtering down to Nigeria. Just last week, I saw online that the Chief of Defense Staff was suggesting that we should start Nigeria's version of the big, beautiful wall. We got to build the wall. And I asked myself, how practical is that if a country as advanced and as modern as the United States has not succeeded in building the big, beautiful wall? So what do you say, or what do you think of Nigeria's response? Do we have a strategy to combat that? I know we have internal issues, many of which are influenced by these external factors. But we spend so much time looking at what is happening inside the country without looking at those external factors affecting us in Nigeria. How do you think Nigeria should respond to the?
Well, with due respect, Dr. Bodrin, I would like to say, when I hear people talking about the Sahel, there is even this thinking that Nigeria is not part of the Sahel. But with due respect, geographically, when you talk about Sahel, you are talking of a region that stretches west to east across the continent of Africa. And it covers countries wholly: Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan, and Eritrea, but also Nigeria, at least the northern states of like Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, and Katsina. These are part of the Sahel. So first of all, I want people to know that when you talk about the problem of the Sahel, you are talking about the problem in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, and to some extent Katsina, because that's part of the Sahel. So I want people to have that holistic picture. Now, having this, having recognized that, there is no doubt that as of 2024, maybe up to this year, the Sahel region has become the hottest bed for terrorism in the world. If you are talking of the number of attacks, the number of groups that are active there, the number of people injured, the number of areas occupied, unfortunately, we're in that region, at least for those states up north, in the northeast and the northwest that I mentioned. They are part of the Sahel. So whatever happens of the Sahel, I want people to know it also includes at least part of Nigeria. The southern part or the middle belt may not be part of the Sahel, but that upper is part of the Sahel. So terrorism being an international phenomenon, there is no country that can do it alone. This is why it is most unfortunate that at this time again that the ECOWAS sub-region, where the Sahel touches, the members are scattering left and right, and Nigeria is falling out, or I can say ECOWAS is falling out with these people. But the truth is that no country, because of the international nature, because of the cross-border nature, if there is no alignment between these countries throughout the region, definitely there's going to be a problem, because a terrorist group might attack in one country and then seek refuge in another, or turn their logistic base or their sanctuary in another country and be attacking, a nearby country. So definitely, unfortunately, Nigeria has to continue all it can, whether within the ECOWAS. Right now, we don't even know what the future of the ECOWAS is. With even we're hearing like Togo, it's like also it might even be breaking away as well. Well, even if there is no regional body, having friendly neighborhood is very important. I think that is where sometimes France, I think a diplomat will tell you the best bet is to have a good neighbor rather somebody far away. With due respect, I'm not saying we're not friendly with France. Nigeria will be friendly with all countries, but when it comes to picking, I will humbly advise that it's better you stick with your neighbors than a country that is far away. Because your neighbor, even if he doesn't have the resources, he can provide sanctuary for people to watch you. So it, in the long run, at the strategic level, it is better if you cannot hold France and our neighboring countries together. Then if it comes between choosing, I would say, please choose our neighboring countries. So definitely what is happening in the whole Sahel, which Nigeria is part, is something that affects Nigeria. What is happening in the West African sub-region is something that, concerns all the countries, the 15 countries that are there. So definitely we have to continue, courting the friendship, whether it is bilaterally, whether it is militarily, whether it is diplomatically. The Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, I have to give him a little salute. He tried. When the normal diplomacy failed, I saw him doing a lot of military diplomacy with this something. How it will succeed, but in the long run, it is the civilians that will decide. But we have to acknowledge that he has done some effort. But the strategic level, they must continue engagement with these countries. We cannot afford to say to hell with them. In the long run, it's going to be a problem for us.
Okay. Well, one issue that I will not fail to ask your opinion of is the issue of coups.
The issue of
military coups within the region. We've seen coups in Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Guinea, who knows where next. And the question I have is, what role do you think organizations like the African Union and ECOWAS can do? Because if you go online, you see a narrative. I don't know, maybe this is a sponsored narrative or not, trying to dress some of these the new military leaders within the sub-region as people, governments that are performing. And gradually that's, thinking is seeping through into this, into civil society. And it does hold some potential danger for the stability of democratic processes in the region and indeed on the continent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bodrin. Actually, what is happening, where even in Nigeria here, I was talking to some young men. I said the way you people are been arrested by now, but now there's democracy. You hear people discussing the possibility or the desirability of coup. It didn't used to be like that. But what brought us here? You have touched the issue. It is due to the people have practiced in the whole of Africa, almost all the countries. People have not seen that democratic dividend. Unfortunately, to give them that which we know the military was not able to give them. So, for lack of something better, you cannot stop people from thinking: should we also try what is happening in Mali? Should we try what is happening in Burkina Faso and Niger and the rest? But again, the dilemma of this coup in some of the West African countries is the fact is that it has brought the good and the bad. What do I mean by the good and the bad? Most of these leaders, they came on the long sentiment that colonial masters have been sucking the blood of African countries, and it is time to do away with them. If you look at all the countries that did that coup, they are using that formula. That formula, with due respect, resonates with people, even people who are not pro-military coup. They are pro do away with these Western people. So, but that is the good side of it. The bad side of it is that whereas most Africans feel that African leaders should take the destiny of their countries and do away with colonialists, unfortunately, it would have been better if it is politicians or rather Democrats that brought these changes, that brought this, like we had the most of the early leaders in the 1960 African struggle, they were not military men. If we had people like that, it would have been better. But unfortunately now, this is the good do away with colonialism, but it is being brought by military people. And all the military leaders, whether it is in Niger, whether it is in Burkina Faso, they are playing that card. So people, even if I was watching the issues in when the coup happened in Niger, it was not all the people that were for the coup. But as soon as the man starts singing, we are doing away with colonialists, we are taking who are taking our resources, people started, even those that were against, okay, that what he says resonates with me, even though I'm not a coup person. So unfortunately, I think we can blame the military for taking the coup, but we can blame politicians. We can blame so-called Democrats who did not bring the dividends, who did not bring good governance. So on the part of African Union or ECOWAS, with due respect, I have to say again, these two institutions, they have made a name of, for good or bad, of supporting leaders no matter how they oppress their people. So that is why, again, some people in countries are saying, go away with ECOWAS. After all, what have they been doing before? So unfortunately, they have that bad name to tag along with. So what's left for them to do now? What is left for them to do? To be honest, I think given the weakness of these institutions, given the fact that they didn't do well for democracy in the past, I think they have no option now than to take each country one by one. Unfortunately, people will not like this, what I'm saying. What I'm saying, where the leader in a country has been able to convince his people that military regime is the best option for them, I think ECOWAS or African Union, there is nothing they can do. Rather, because the danger I'm saying, if you say, okay, Western countries or the Western Democrats, they say, okay, remove this leader for me, like we saw in the Niger something, it might backfire. We ended up not removing the leader in Niger, but we ended up fractionalizing ECOWAS. So I think this is my own advice. I'm not a diplomat, but I think practically looking at it, I think they will look at it based on let the countries of themselves make decisions. I have this feeling that eventually democracy will return to these African countries that did military coup. But it is not going to be because ECOWAS or
some foreign powers demanded it. Yeah.
Also foreign, yes, because they will always be seen as support playing the interest of foreign power. That is what is killing, whether for good or bad. Some people feel that ECOWAS is playing the card of either America or playing the card of European Union or France. Okay. So there is that danger. So I think right now the two institutions, ECOWAS and maybe the other regional organizations, African regional organization, honestly, they do not stand on a strong position to say they will insist. Insisting may be misread, it might become counterproductive. So, like I said, they deal with each country. For now, Nigeria, we are safe. Nobody's talking about military coup. Let them allow democracy. For the other three countries that are doing AES, because don't send them out of ECOWAS, don't send them out of African Union, but continue to cut them until the people themselves in that country, when they will eventually get tired of military regime.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, the antidote to a contagion effect, really, when talking about democracy now, is good governance. You deliver. If people can have their basic needs met, I mean, when we talk about the likes of Nkrumah, we talk about those early leaders in Nyerere and so on, it's because they met the basic needs of the people: food, shelter, and work to do. And then if democracy delivers on those points, I totally agree with you that people's confidence in democratic institutions and processes will be built. So as we round up,
yes,
go ahead.
Sorry, please. Yeah. Yes, permit me. There's one question that was very interesting to me, because I'm right now writing an article, but I didn't get to answer it. That is the issue of fencing Nigerian border. I am very happy you said something which I didn't hear in the Nigerian debate, and I'm happy you are in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Which is, you started with it that if US, with all its resources, is not able to fence its border completely, what are the chances that Nigeria will be able to fence its border completely? The truth is that I can understand the misgiving of the Chief of Defense Staff, somebody I respect, somebody who is my junior colleague, but honest, when I turned this idea of fencing Nigeria's 4,000 plus kilometers borders, what it will take. I just gave myself an assignment. I did a small research. Depending on the type of fence, you are looking at something of nothing less than $12 million, $12 billion. $12 billion is what that exercise is going to cost. And that is not the highest quality of fence, because fencing, I want people to understand, is like a roofing sheet. There are different grades. I look at there are practically, when I check, there are about 4 grades of fencing that countries use to cover some of their borders. And you made the point. Despite the examples drawn, as of now, I think the only country that has even reached maybe some 90% closing its border on one side is the Saudi Arabia with the Iran-Iraq border. I think they are the ones that have reached 90 something. But as of now, what research shows is that there is no country the size of Nigeria that has been able to erect wall around its borders. First of all, the cost is prohibitive. Secondly, erecting a border, whether we like it or not, ignores the fact that African borders were drawn arbitrarily. I am from Sokoto. If you go to my area, if you go to Katsina, if you go to Borno area, the border between Nigeria and Niger, or Nigeria and Chad, you will see families that are cut into two.
That's true.
I had the privilege.
If you go south, also is the same thing.
If you go south to that Badagry area, there are people
Seme, Ilaro, and all those places.
There are people in that Kayenji area. There's an ethnic group that is half in Nigeria, 3/4 of it is in Benin Republic. So you see, when you look at these issues, you find that, yes, while it's good for Nigeria to monitor its borders, but the issue of erecting a fence, apart from the cost, you look at this cultural, familial ties that I said, you also understand that when you say nobody should cross border, the crossing border is not only done, I know for the CDS, what concerns him is Boko Haram, but it's not only Boko Haram that crosses border. People that do small commerce cross border. In fact, in GBA area, I did some work with IOM. I met somebody who is in Niger Republic, but his farm is in Katsina area. He crosses over to come to his farm and then cross over in the evening to go back. So when you think of this, so apart from Boko Haram, if you put that border, for example, apart from the initial cost, it means almost every year you have to budget about 20% of that cost to go and plug where people have torn it down. But from that end and our end here, people will attack that border. So again, I think we need to, I can understand the problem, but we need to look, there are solutions which I have written about. Maybe we don't have time to discuss that. But the issue I'm saying, while the idea may look attractive, but it's not feasible because no country has done that. And with due respect, I don't even think the government will do that. But I can understand when there's a problem that is unsolvable, people bring a lot of but honest, with due respect to the CDS, I do not think the issue of border around Nigeria's 4,000 plus kilometers with 4 countries, you know, that we have ties with. I do not think it is. In any case, even places like where there is active hostility, like the, I mean, our own border issues, despite Boko Haram, which started and we hope it will end, you know, it is not as hostile as the India-Pakistan border, for example. It's not as hostile
North Korea,
as
South Korea.
So even so, you see, sometimes it is comparing apple with oranges. If you say even Pakistan and India have done a border, with due respect, is there any border between Nigeria and any country that's as hostile as that of these are nuclear countries? These are nuclear countries that are at the edge of war for over 50 years. So I think, again, like I said, you may bring example and say they have done this, they have done that, but the context is different.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I totally agree with you.
I always say, I hope I'll be proved wrong, that the problem of insecurity in Nigeria is, I can say without hesitation, 80 to 90% is homegrown. It's homegrown. There may be international element, but it is not that much. Whether you say where Boko Haram is getting money, where Boko Haram is getting weapons. I was a consultant on the security roundtable that was done by the 8th Senate. Ahmed Lawan was president that time. I remember the head of DSS that time, Lawal Daura, the one that was removed. The problem with government. I was there when he said their investigation showed that about 70% of the arms and ammunition that are in the hands of non-state actors in Nigeria are from Nigerian official armories. Pilfering. I was there when he said it. He's alive. The senators who did it, they are doing another seminar. They didn't work with the other one. They didn't work.
Are they still going ahead with that seminar?
Well, they said they are going to do it. But I can tell you, I have no hesitation in saying the last seminar that was done, I was one of the people that was given to write the final report. But what happened? To be honest with you, I am a Nigerian. I must say what is disturbing Nigeria. I went to the National Assembly over 5 times to have meeting with the people that are supposed to give me the brief. I was not able to meet them. As I'm talking to you, in some of my boxes, I have the report of that seminar.
All right. As we end the conversation, Sadiq, if you were to have one word for Nigerian leaders as well as citizens, you know, about this state of insecurity that we're facing, what would that one word, you know, one message rather, what would that one message be, you know, for leaders as well as citizens over this issue of insecurity?
I don't want to be a doomsayer, but the truth is that all over the world, and especially for Nigeria, that has its fault lines, issues of security, even if we are lucky to finish Boko Haram, to finish bandits, to finish Lakurawa, to finish Mahmuda, the nature of human interaction is that for a country like Nigeria, with its diversity, another internal security challenge will rise up eventually. Who is going to deal with that security agents? The kind of security architecture we have, which brings me to the fact, for how many years we have been saying that our security architecture is not fit for purpose for the kind of challenges that Nigeria is not likely to fight a war with any country. It's not likely. I didn't say it is impossible. The challenges will continue to be homegrown, citizens-led, you know, threats and menaces that will continue to be developed in the country. Our security architecture, and I want to, when I say security architecture, again, people make the mistake of thinking when you say security architecture, you are saying reform the army. or reform the police, or reform the air force. That's only one part of the architecture. We started this debate was that in a democracy, there is a concept of democratic control of the armed forces. When you say security architecture, not only the fighting ones that I mentioned, Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, but also the oversight agencies. The oversight agencies in the executive and the oversight agencies in the legislature. In the executive, the president is there as commander-in-chief. He has relevant ministers, whether minister of police, whether minister of defense. These are oversight agencies. In the legislatures, the relevant agencies, even though any senator, whether he's in the committee or not, can still contribute. These issues, this also need reform. We have been talking of reform. The only person since democracy came that attempted reform halfway and then abandoned it was President Obasanjo. At least he tried to bring the reform. It started, but it was not sustained. It was not finished. If we remember, it's the issue of reform that brought the departure of late Victor Malu as chief of army staff. Since after that, almost every government that comes talk about reform. Personally, here in the last Buhari administration, I served on 2 committees of reform. The reports are there. Nobody has done it. And I remember, I will quote the chairman of our 2nd committee for implementation, which is General Alwali Kazil, former chief of army staff. He spoke some prophetic words when we are handing over that committee report. He told General Magashi, who was the Minister of Defense that time, that I hope this committee will not end up having another committee to review the committee, to review the committee, to review the committee, to review the committee on the reform of the armed forces. That is where we are. 2 committees, nothing said. Even in the renewed hope agenda, there are issues of reform. If we don't reform our armed forces, if we don't reform and again, architecture also involves the judiciary and the CSOs. They are all part of the architecture. It's not only the people fighting. The oversight agencies, National Human Rights Commission, the CEOs, they all have a role to play, to make sure as long as we don't reform our armed forces, it is lack of the reform of the armed forces. That is why police is fighting civil defense. That's why we want to bring a forest guard now. That's why it's lack of reform. That is why sometimes we have fight between service chief and NSA. That's why we have service chiefs going behind the Minister of Defense to go and interface with President. All these are issues of security sector reform, and we have not yet started. Unless we do that, we'll continue to waste money, we'll continue to waste resources, because the wastage of the money, when you have a war, like we say, without security, you don't have anything. So there's tendency to prioritize security. But what you have to understand as human beings, the more you prioritize security, it means the less you are spending on education, the less you are spending on health, the less you are spending on roads. This is what people should know. And again, with respect to the people that are fighting, if you don't reform the security, for example, if a battalion is supposed to be, I'm coming to battalion of 8, and you send 400 officers and men, already work is dangerous, but you are putting more danger than what they need. Please, we should look at these people that are asleep, that are working. They didn't go for Salah, they didn't go for Christmas, they didn't go for Iwalu. So security sector is, I would call, to some extent, President Buhari do it. President Bola Ahmed said he do it. Executive. Our legislators should wake up. They should use section 218 of the Constitution. I continue to say, it is not only the work of the executive branch. It's not only the work of, after giving all the powers on 217, it came to 218 to say all these powers to be exercised by the president will be with the input of the National Assembly. For example, I can give you, since we returned from to democracy, the only legislation is the Armed Forces Act. That is, give any subsidiary legislation that will show how they can, manage the armed forces. So everybody should do his part, and we should try and finally do this security sector reform. If this government wants, the report of the 2 committees that Buhari, set up, I think they can try to see how they can implement it. It touched most of the issues that have been raised here. These issues of low numbers, this is one kind. In discussion, we say we are doing American type democracy, but in application, you do not see it there. You don't see it there, apart from calling our president, executive president, and everybody want to be His Excellency. That is the only thing that we copied. But all the other things we didn't copy them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Well, to our listeners out there, we'd like to hear from you. What is your take on the current state of insecurity in Nigeria, as well as in the wider West Africa region? But one thing that this conversation has shown is that security is not just about guns and troops. It's about accountability. It's about transparency. It's also about oversight, as we've discussed very extensively, the role that institutions like the National Assembly or Parliament, as it's commonly called, need to, the role they need to play in oversighting military institutions, the defense budget in any country, because the Constitution does empower it to do so. But are parliamentarians equipped enough with the knowledge, with the capacity, with the skill, and the necessary support for them to do this? So we'd like to hear from you, our audience. Please drop your comments in the comment box below. Also, we'll encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Again, I want to say a big thank you to our guests for today, who served Nigeria in very distinguished ways when he was in the military. Thank you again, Sadiq. It's been a great pleasure having this conversation with you. Big Garba, shehu, thank you so much for spending time with us on today's episode of the show. We'll be back again, to discuss with you as we watch events. Hopefully, when next we bring you, we'll have more cheering news for us to discuss about the state of insecurity in Nigeria, as well as within the sub-region. Thank you.